Voices serves as the megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational change. By highlighting trials and triumphs, our desire is to create a safe space for pivotal conversations, which in turn will deepen the story and provoke hope for you, our listeners. As you may know, change is never easy, but it is inevitable. You are not alone in what you're facing. Your transformation is possible, purposeful, and now. And here's Aaron Wiggum, founder and managing director of New You, with this week's guest.
Welcome to another edition of New Voices. My name is Aaron Wiggum, and I am your host and managing director of New You. Here on New Voices, this is a platform that serves as a megaphone for individuals who have endured transformational or pivotal experiences and are here to tell their story. We have a wonderful guest today. This guy here is one of the first people I connected with when I came to Tulsa. I got here maybe a month or so before he arrived, and he's connected to everything Tulsa. You name it, he has his hand in it, and he's doing amazing work throughout a myriad of communities. He now is leading partnerships at the Kaiser Family Foundation. Or the TCF, I should say, TCF. And we are really excited for the work that he's doing with NYU that is coming, and some other initiatives that he's leading. We actually had the pleasure of working together at both Atento Capital, and then did some work together with in Tulsa. And but more importantly than his work, I know this gentleman to truly be a connector. He is a connector at heart. He is an earnest individual. If he says it, he means it. And what I really enjoy about him is that he thinks outside the box in a way that provides leverage to all people who may have been in a box. And so I bring to you none other than this thought leader himself, the one and only Aaron Miller. Welcome, Aaron.
Thank you. Ed, that was the most glowing introduction. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I saw your smiles outside the microphone.
It's a pleasure to be with you. It's someone I look up to a lot here in Tulsa, and just amazed at all the things you've built. So I'm excited for this conversation.
Likewise. So let's get right into it. We always start every segment with, what is the Aaron Miller story? You can go back as far as you would like. I would love to hear it from your lens. What is your story?
For sure. I have thought about this. How do you tell your story?
Yeah.
A lot.
Okay.
And, I have written many bios. I have told my story in many different ways. But I had this moment where it really clicked on, how do I really think about my origins of what shaped my personality?
Yeah.
And I have these memories of getting put to bed by my parents and then sneaking out of bed right after they left the room and getting this box of Fisher-Price toy cars and my little toy car garage and just playing with them and creating stories about those people every single night.
Okay.
5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that really... when I think back to my childhood, growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, it was so much about the physical place I was in and about the people I was around, and just always being so fascinated by their interactions and how they moved through the world and where they chose to go and what they chose to build. So, I feel like I really always root back to those stories of people. Okay. And I grew up had a wonderful childhood growing up in, as I said, suburbs of Chicago. I just was able to, I was a good student. I cared a lot about school. I did a lot of outdoorsy stuff, hiking and canoeing.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of obstacles in my way. And I was really fortunate to grow up in that kind of experience.
Yeah.
and I went to college at University of Michigan.
Okay. Big Blue. Blue.
Go Blue.
Yeah.
National champions.
Yeah.
I was at the game.
You lost your coach though.
We lost our coach, but I'm okay to sacrifice him
for the win.
For the win.
Okay.
He did what he came to do.
He did. He did do it. Yes.
So forever we'll love Jim Harbaugh.
Even with a suspension.
Even with a witch hunt.
Yes, it was. This is true. Yeah.
No, I mean, Michigan was amazing. I still have so many friends from going to school there.
Uh-huh.
I was super involved in student government.
Okay.
So I had my niche. I had my close friends and groups of people, but I also loved getting outside of that bubble.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the things that I did at student government at University of Michigan was create these dinners that were purposeful intercultural dinners.
Yeah.
How do you get the Jewish Students Association and the Muslim Student Association to have a paid for casual, collaborative dialogue?
Yeah.
And I think that also was really formative because Michigan's a huge place. You have people from all backgrounds.
All over the world. Yeah.
All over the world.
Yep.
And I got really excited by meeting people who grew up differently than me, who had different views on the world, different religious backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. And that really, I think, led me to Teach for America. And so I moved to Tulsa. I got assigned to move to Tulsa in 2010, and I taught 6th and 7th grade math on Tulsa's west side, which is one of the more racially diverse parts of Tulsa. You have white students, Native students, Black students, Hispanic students. You have students who've lived, their families have been there for 100 years on the west side. You have students who are very recent immigrants.
Right.
And so I really loved that community. I loved getting to know all the backgrounds. But I always kept thinking about that physical place and back to the Fisher-Price cars and how you kind of move and maneuver people around.
Yeah.
And so I got the chance after my 2 years of Teach for America to help open Guthrie Green and the park in downtown Tulsa that served as this canvas for so many different groups around the city to put on prideful events of, what their community was all about and bringing people together. And that led my work. That was through the George Kaiser Family Foundation. And I worked there for 5.5 years. I took a 3-year hiatus and left for Chicago and went to grad school and worked at a big tech company and lots to dive into there.
Yeah.
And then made my way back to Tulsa in 2020.
Yeah.
So where I got to help start in Tulsa that matches diverse talent to tech jobs. And then recently moved into a newly created role at the Tulsa Community Foundation that's focused on telling Tulsa's story to a national audience and building strong, innovative partnerships with new funders, new thought leaders. So that's the short version of my story.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And what I love about that is I'm hearing this through line of you being a connector from age 5 with the little Fisher-Price community. Like you did it with figures before, and then I'm hearing the same thing at University of Michigan, where you're creating this community, right, by intersecting different communities, and now you're doing it for the city of Tulsa or for the Tulsa region through the Tulsa Community Foundation. Yeah. And so, like, I think that is, it just speaks to who you are, like the way that you, not everybody's entrusted to be a connector in that way, right? And what I like to call it is like, everybody acknowledges the door, but not many people give credit to the hinge. And I look at you as like a hinge, like you give access one way or the other, right? And that hinge is very necessary, especially in an area like Oklahoma that is, a Republican by tradition, but is becoming more. Tulsa was just named a welcoming city in America, right? and we're now a tech hub, right? And so we're being introduced to all these different industries and having these different crosswinds that are happening. And how important is it now for somebody like a Hinge, Aaron Miller, to be able to give access from one community to the other? So, the other piece I'll just highlight there or underscore there is that like this is organic to who you are. Like you're not trying to be something else. Like this is you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a blessing and a curse because I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, my first instinct is to try and find the connections.
Yes.
There.
Yeah.
I learn quickly about someone's background and think, okay, who do I know that they may be connected with or who they should be connected with?
Yeah.
And sometimes I jump right into that because I get so excited about finding those connections.
Yeah.
And you know, my husband will say, you know, I'm always looking to talk to people, to strangers, and then trying to find
where to place
some point of commonality.
Yeah, yeah.
And we ran into some people on the street in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, and we said hello. We were here visiting, and immediately we said we're from Tulsa. Someone said, "Oh, I've been there," and we quickly found out the people we had in common.
See,
it just happens everywhere I go, and I love it.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. And so you, first of all, you're from a sports town, Chicago.
Yes.
All right, I don't know anybody who's from Chicago who's not a sports fan. So let's call out your teams real quick. I'm assuming you're a sports.
Number one, Chicago Bears.
Okay, the Bears.
Yes,
all right, cool.
The Bears.
Okay.
Bears, Bulls, Cubs.
Oh, Cubs. Okay.
Michigan sports too. I love it all.
Okay, cool. And so how do you navigate? Tulsa's not really known as be a sports town. It's more of an oil town, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate or how do you create that? I'm from a sports town as well. Pittsburgh is a sports town. You know, go Penguins, go Pirates. I'm not a Steelers fan, but it's a big sports town.
Yes.
So like I know that there's a void when you don't have that element. How do you navigate that? Even as you are like, you know, you're leading partnerships, right? And you are selling the city or the idea of the city to a broader swath of individuals. How do you navigate like some of the different characteristics of some of the larger cities or other cities?
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate that in Tulsa and with the story you tell in Tulsa?
Yeah. I think Tulsa has struggled with this over the years.
Yeah.
I know that my students who lived 5 miles away from downtown never went downtown.
Yeah.
They didn't really have Tulsa pride.
Right.
Because there wasn't that rallying force. There wasn't that sports team.
Exactly.
There wasn't that kind of unifying cultural moment for everyone in Tulsa to get behind.
Yeah.
And I think what downtown has started to become is that melting pot, that place where everyone comes together. When we have Oktoberfest and when we have Tulsa Tough, and when we have these marquee events, it creates a sort of aligned cultural competency that everybody kind of orients around and creates that basis for connection.
Yeah.
What I see happening in Tulsa is sometimes a more authentic connection because in the absence of sports,
you have to actually really connect. Yeah.
You have to connect with people at a more personal level.
Right.
And you're walking in and out of art galleries and you're attending really cool food events.
First Friday events. And
First Friday. And you're talking to people about their opinions on things that reflect people's identities a little bit more than, you know, a reality TV or a sports type of focus. So I actually find there's an authenticity in Tulsa that if you lean into it a little bit more, you find people who you can get a little deeper with more quickly.
Right.
Because you don't have some of those other distractions.
Yeah, I agree. And you don't have those notes of centrality, you know. I agree with you 100%. That's good. So when you were in Tulsa, by the way, when I first came to Tulsa and I said my name was Aaron, everybody I met said, Aaron Miller? I said no. And then when I finally met you, I was like, you don't even look look alike. but I mean, people were emailing me and met them email him. I mean, like I filled some big shoes here. I had to fill because when you left, everybody had mistaken me. Aaron, they just saw Aaron and thought it was Miller, right? And I was like, no, I'm the other Aaron, right? But you know, you leaned a lot into the work that you've done, and what about your upbringing, or what about you as an individual helps you to devote yourself to your work in that way? Like that doesn't come natural to everybody,
right?
What's some things you could speak to on that?
I really love my family, and I think that they have given me just some of the most amazing gifts in a blueprint of how to be a engaged citizen.
Got it.
All 4 of my grandparents were born in the United States, but most of their parents were not.
Right.
So Jewish family emigrated from all over Europe, in Poland and Russia and Lithuania. I had some parts of my family that have been in America since the early 1800s, and other parts of my family that came to America in 1930. And one thing that I've seen is my family has always been really involved in something greater than themselves.
Got it.
They've been involved in their Jewish community. What that looked like for me growing up is that we would have big family holidays. And so I learned the importance of, you know, getting together and having those relationships of helping in the kitchen, of cleaning up, of seeing and keeping and maintaining relationships with people that you may see only a few times a year.
Yeah.
But we also would do a lot of volunteering activities around those holidays. There's this amazing program in Chicago called Mayot Hatim. And it basically means it involves bringing boxes of food to elderly, mostly Jewish people, but not exclusively,
Right.
Citizens who lived in these high rises in Chicago, many who came from Eastern Europe. And we would pick up boxes of food that would last for a week or two and drop them off around the Jewish holiday of Passover.
Got it.
And you'd go in and you'd meet these people. They didn't speak English. All they wanted to do was pinch my cheeks and give me candy, which I loved, the candy part at least. And so I think there was always something around it being instilled in me that doing something greater than yourself for other people without expecting something in return
That's good.
was very important and prominent. And I think that plays into the way I like to connect people. In that there are you'll find startups out there where people want to get paid for their network.
Their network.
And that just has never resonated for me. It's something that I find joy in making. You know, in Judaism they call it a shidduch, which is like a match. Matchmaker. I love playing matchmaker, and I think that just comes from my family coming to the United States in many different ways and building connections and needing to have those roots to take care of each other. And I always want to do that for other people.
Got it. That's good, man. That's good. When you're thinking about, you know, first of all, I have a twofold question. When you think about your life, how it has panned out, is this the trajectory you thought you would be on at your given age? Like, let's say, you know, 13-year-old Aaron, would he look at current age Aaron and say, like, this is exactly what I expected? Or how do you feel like you fared in your life so far?
That's a great question. And I don't think I ever fully had things mapped out. I definitely remember a very pivotal moment. In 8th grade, we did a career project. You had to choose a career. I had amazing teachers growing up, and I think that makes such a big difference in what I felt was possible, the confidence I was able to build. And we had this career project where you chose a career and you researched what it would take to get there.
Yep.
What school you would go to, how much money you would make. That was never, I didn't think about salary up to that point in my life.
Okay.
What degree you would take, how many years it would typically take to get to a certain point in that career.
Right.
And I chose sports broadcast.
See, of course, Chicago, right?
Of course, yeah. And realized, man, it is not easy to be in broadcast journalism. No. Most people don't make it.
Cutthroat.
You have to hop around many different cities all over, and you don't really make that much money.
Until you get to that. The people you see,
yes,
it took a long road to get there.
A long road, and it's
arduous.
Rare to make it.
Yeah.
And I think I saw for myself less career decisions. I didn't know ever what I wanted to be. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But I think I envisioned having a family.
Yep.
I probably at that point envisioned being married to a woman, and I'm married to a man, and that is a very different pathway than I think I would have thought for myself in that day. I just didn't know a lot of queer people growing up.
Yeah.
And then I think I envisioned maintaining, like being successful, whatever that meant, being comfortable. Pursuing wealth was never a motivator for me.
Got it.
I think I always just wanted to be in a comfortable, happy place. And I feel like I have that now.
Yeah.
And I love the life that I've built. I love the adventures that I get to go on traveling. I love the adventures that I get to go on meeting people.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a great support system. So I think that there's pieces of my life I never would have predicted.
Yeah.
Like living in Oklahoma.
You and me both.
Yeah. But I think there's an openness and there's something to having some guardrails, but not being so prescriptive.
Got it.
And what you think is possible that has allowed my mind to stay open.
Yeah.
And to say yes to things I never would have thought of.
That's good. That's very good. Okay. So of course we talk about pivotal situations, right? So you talked about TFA, Teach for America, and you apparently wanted to be a teacher at some point, and you did serve as a teacher for a period of time.
Yeah.
What caused the pivot? What was the pivot difficult? And then, when you were pivoting, did you feel like a novice in the new thing? So that's a 3-part. What caused the pivot?
Yeah.
What was the impetus, right? And then, when you pivoted, did you feel like a novice in the new thing?
Yeah. Well, my journey into Teach for America was the pivot.
Oh, okay.
So I never expected to become a teacher. I never pursued teaching. I actually look back on my initial interactions with Teach for America and think, man, I was pretty pompous in that I went into a conversation with the Teach for America recruiter and said, hey, I'm really not interested in your program.
Yeah.
But maybe you have connections to, I want to work in like community development, not in a school.
Right.
And the Teach for America recruiter was amazing and turned that totally around on me and said, well, if you really want to understand a community and neighborhoods and physical development, what better place to do that than a school where you're going to see the intersection of transportation policy, housing policy, education, healthcare, walkable neighborhoods, or lack thereof.
Right.
And really convinced me the school was the most amazing place to be. And when I think about the sort of service that I wanted to do in my life, would I start some sort of corporate career and then ever really go back and take a time out from that and do something as ingrained into a new community than something like Teach for America?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people would like to think that they would, but not many people actually do it. And so I decided to start my career that way.
Got it.
But I quickly realized teaching didn't play to my strengths. It didn't make me happy.
Right.
Being confined in one building all day, one classroom all day.
Right.
Even though every day was wild and crazy and different and challenged
Brand
me.
new experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was just a different sort of variety that I was looking for. And my students knew it too.
Yeah.
They would say, Mr. Miller, why are you a teacher? It just feels like you should be doing something else.
Yeah.
And my 13-year-old students could see that.
Wow.
I had to listen to that within myself. And that really led me to make that pivot.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to love education and teaching. And I do love education.
Yeah.
I was truly open to making that my career. But I think once I got into it, I just saw that there were other directions where I would both be happier and because of that happiness, make a bigger impact.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
What, when you think about these pivots, let's talk about maybe a time in your life where you had to make, like it's a valley experience and you don't know quite how you're going to make it out of it. You don't quite know what to do next. Maybe you were, you've spoken so far a lot about being comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So this had you very uncomfortable, right? Walk us through that. Like what was the experience, and then how did you make it out? Like how did you hold on to hope throughout the experience? I should say.
Yeah, I have taken some leaps of faith at different points in my life. And there are your more kind of standard answers of like I going to grad school and leaving a job and not having an income for a while and just hoping it all works out. Those are uncomfortable moments. Those are valleys.
Yeah.
But I think maybe more personal, more real are those moments where I had to make some decisions about like how true I wanted to be to myself and my like who I loved to my family and to my community and be public about that.
Yeah.
And, seeing so many different routes that you might be able to take where I could have sort of lived a life where everyone assumes in some way like I'm straight.
Yeah.
I'm bi.
Yeah.
And I didn't need to disclose that necessarily.
Right.
But I felt like there was always going to be some barrier between me being my full self.
Yeah.
And making that decision to come out to my family and friends and pursue a more open life was a very scary one.
Yeah.
I think many people go through it.
Right.
And so it's comfort in knowing that so many different people come to be in their true selves and proud about that, but it still feels intensely personal and unique and custom to your own situation.
Your own experience. Yeah.
So I think I was able to go through that by having a strong support system, by taking it in steps, talking to people, asking for their advice. I read a lot. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I looked at other people's stories, and actually back to the sports thing, there's a former NFL player, Ryan Russillo, who who came out after leaving the NFL. And he wrote this really amazing piece for ESPN.
Okay.
I think it was ESPN in 2019, 2018. And that was really kind of this pivotal guide to like, how do I talk about this stuff? But there are times where you just shy away, like you build up the courage and then you shy away from doing it. And it took some momentum building and setting some manufactured deadlines for myself. Saying, okay, you can't go do this trip. You can't leave. You can't start the next semester until you've talked to your family about this. Or you have to sort of put some of those things in place that force you off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I found that my dread was way more intense internally
Than the actual,
than actually doing it. And I feel like it's not like it's magical overnight.
No.
It takes a while for you to change your identity.
Right.
Once you see yourself in a different way, you have to say that out loud in different circumstances to yourself and to others many times before it sets in.
Yeah.
And there's this change management kind of philosophy that's, how do I know what I think until I see what I say?
Yeah.
Where you can think all of these things inside your head,
Right.
but until you say them out loud, until you put them out into the world, you don't really know exactly where your thoughts lie.
Yeah.
Because saying it to somebody else creates this sense of not permanency, but shape that takes place.
Absolutely.
That allows you to have shape within yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is beautiful, man. You it's like your words create space for you to live.
Yeah.
Right. And when you are only feeling these things, you're internalizing. So you're building up, there's all this buildup and angst and stress and whatever. But when you're able to actually put words to it, language to it, even when people are going through anger management, or when people are going through they're in therapy, right? That's what all therapy is all about, is putting language to how you're feeling to release it, right? And so when you have that buildup, because you know that this is who you are, and I'm not giving the world 100% of who I am. I'm giving myself 100%, but nobody else has 100%. I'm giving the world 70% of who I am. It creates this like almost like this dual sense of reality, right? Like, I have to be this openly, I have to be this somewhere else, right? And that angst can go on, and it doesn't just happen when it's gender or preference or anything like that. It happens in a bunch of different ways, right? We in the African American community talk about code switching a lot, right? And how I have to be a particular way in a boardroom, but then when I go home, I'm in the barbershop, I'm a whole other, right? And you have to like be a dual identity, right? And so, but this goes much deeper, because this is something that like you have to work through. Like you said, you may have to say it 1,000 times before you actually create enough space for you to live in it. And so that's powerful. You want to say something?
Well, no, I think that everyone has within themselves there's the capacity to be something different.
Yes.
Many people spend decades worrying about what the risks are of being something different.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't get to choose. So you talk about the African American community, like code switching was in some ways a means of survival.
It is, yeah.
And you didn't have a choice to hide your blackness.
Right.
And I think that everybody has within them multiple identities that they can't hide,
right,
and other identities that they do hide or shy away from, and all of those things kind of build up the complete picture of you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of connecting with others as well, is how do you give people the space and the time and the comfort and the safety, the psychological safety, to be who they really are.
Right. Yeah. I have a saying I always tell people, that everybody wants you to be honest until you tell them the truth. Right. And you just be honest with me. Be honest with me. Okay, here's the truth. Boom. Oh, don't say that. It's like so this being able to walk in 100% of who you are, and it is definitely something that we all aspire to be able to do. Everybody wants to just be who I am, right? And have enough space given and grace afforded to me for all that comes with, right? Yeah. And so that's beautiful, man. Thank you for like putting language to all of that.
Well, and you can't do it alone.
No,
I mean, the other thing is that it's all of the sort of science about how you improve shows you have to have a coach.
Yes.
And I had mentors
right.
or confidants that I leaned on as I was navigating my own questions here.
Yeah.
And that I think is so important, is building that bench of mentorship, of your board of directors, your inner circle.
Yep.
Like, who do you go to? Not just the people you hang out with at a bar
right.
And see on the weekends, but who do you go to when you're really struggling?
Yes.
Building a diverse group of people who can offer those opinions is so important.
Right. 100%. One question, and then we'll do a call to action. All right. Last question. When you think of Aaron, future Aaron, all right, what, based on what you've accomplished and who you have become and how the trajectory your life is on, what excites you about what is to come for future Aaron based on what you've already lived and experienced?
Yeah, I am really excited about the potential to become a parent one day.
Yeah.
And to nurture, someone into the next generation. And whether that happens through, my own child or not, just thinking about that ability to help shape what the future generation will look like and what they will do and what problems we've created that they're going to solve. I think that's an important thing that I look forward to, that I feel like I have enough confidence, enough life experience to help learn from others, but also guide them through whatever might be needed next in our Tulsa community, in my Jewish community, amongst my family. And so I just think of all the people who've helped me get to where I'm at. And what I'm most excited for is the ability to, keep building strong relationships and pay it forward in that way. And also just to shape this city. I love Tulsa, and I think I sometimes have to work really hard to separate who am I outside of this community versus, who am I inside this community. I can't give away my whole self to a city.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us who work in community building struggle with that idea.
Yeah.
But I am really excited about what Tulsa is becoming.
Me too.
And that brings me a lot of joy. And I think future Aaron is just going to look back on when I moved here in 2010 to where the city will be in 10, 15, 20 years and just be astounded at all of the progress that we've made, because we're really setting a model for the future of the American city.
Absolutely. That's great. So call to action. Our listeners are listening. So what would you say to our listeners? Maybe they're experiencing a pivotal time in their life. Maybe they're experiencing something that would cause for them to really regather themselves and reconsider some things. And they're hearing your voice right now. So what are some call to actions, or a call to action you would give them?
Yeah. Ground yourself in what makes you special. I think there's an activity I've done a couple times called Reflected Best Self, where you essentially ask people to respond to you when you're at your best.
Yeah.
And then you extrapolate some themes there. And I think it's really important to, as you're going into any kind of uncertain time, ground yourself in what you bring to the table.
Yeah, that's good.
And I just would advise anyone who's going through a big pivot to make sure that they feel proud of themselves for even just surviving to this point. And then build the right board of advisors. The team around you that is not just going to tell you what you want to hear, but it's going to tell you what you need to hear.
Yes, yes.
And those people will be invaluable.
Right.
There's a million self-help books you can read and conflicting advice, but if you feel like you're around a bunch of people that lift you up and make you feel good about yourself and hold you accountable, then it'll all fall into place.
Yep. That's good. That's good. How can people reach you, follow you, connect with you?
Yeah. I'm available on Tulsa Community Foundation and through that website.
Okay.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid some of the other socials at this. I'm trying to be more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took them off my phone, actually.
It's hard. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But yeah, I've been big on LinkedIn, and I think about all those kind of I love social network dynamics and kind of the science behind connections. And so LinkedIn for me is just such a fascinating experiment and analyzing like who's connected to who and how they interact. And it's your third and fourth and fifth connections that are going to get you jobs. It's your first connections that are going to keep you propped up and feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
You need to have both.
You do need both. That's good. Well, thank you for your time today, Aaron. This has been a great conversation, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it from him. You've had some great advice, and I'm really full from this conversation. Follow us on social media. That's New You Tulsa on FB, IG, and LinkedIn. And we also want you to follow us on New Voices. All right. This has been a wonderful conversation, and continue to listen. We'll be back soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of New Voices. Visit our website at www.newuunlimited.com. That is NEWU Unlimited.com. Follow us on social media at New You Unlimited on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And a special thank you to our producer, Jesse Ulrich. If you're looking for self-improvement, join our programs for personal and professional development. New You is a way for diverse talent to imagine, discover, and actualize a 2.0 version of yourself. Bring your future into focus.